Hi guys, Aka here. So, we want to take a look at Lorenzo and Niccolo, the two ground generals that were released in this anniversary event. And since this is an anniversary event, we are expecting these two generals to be a pair of bad boys. You know, we are expecting them to come in and just wreck the whole thing. So, we're going to take a look at these two generals and see what they can do up against other tough competition in the game. Now, because of the way these two generals have been released, we will expect Lorenzo to be the main general while Niccolo will be the assistant. And with that in mind, we're going to focus mostly on Lorenzo. We'll take a look at Niccolo in certain occasions, and then we'll give our verdict on the two of them and answer the burning questions that you have. Now, if you're planning on getting either of these two generals, or just generally planning on coining in this anniversary event, might I suggest that you use Paxify. Paxify would be great for you to get discounts on all your coining. And if you wanted, you could set it up so that you could load all your pink gems for the event at one go, so you don't have any stress and you can get your packs whenever you're ready. The links that you need for Paxify are down in the description of this video, and using Paxify also helps support the channel. If you are going to use Paxify, remember to use the code redevony. Thank you very much in advance. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at Lorenzo. So we have him here, and we take a look at his main skill. For his main skill, he gets 60% attack, 60% defense, and 45% HP. Note that he's a when leading the army to attack general, and for you to get the max stats from his main skill, he needs to have either a dragon or a spirit beast. Now we move on to his specialties, and by the time we put everything in his specialties together, Lorenzo comes out with 75% attack, 55% defense, and 65% HP. Now we move on to his ascension, and by the time we put everything in his ascension together, Lorenzo gets 85% attack, 45% defense, and 30% HP. Now we put all his stats together, Lorenzo de Medici comes out with a total of 220% attack, 160% defense, and 140% HP. Very decent stats indeed. Now, let's put Lorenzo up against some of the other top ground generals that we have in the game. So, right here, these are the generals that we are going to be comparing Lorenzo with. And before you say anything, I already know what you're going to say. Just go along with me on this, okay? So, here are the stats for these generals. Now, as you can see, compared to the other generals, Lorenzo is doing pretty well. He's leading the group in attack. Defense, he's kind of tied. HP, all right, he's not quite the highest, but, you know, he's still doing okay. Right, so amongst the top generals that we're looking at, in terms of stats, Lorenzo is pretty good. Okay, pretty decent indeed. Now, we want to take a look at march size. As we all know, march size is a very important factor for ground generals. So, here are the march sizes for these generals that we are looking at. And as you can see right here, the comparison takes on a whole different dimension now. Lorenzo is killing everyone on the march size. So, when you take into account the stats with the march size, yeah, I think Lorenzo is beating these guys out, my humble opinion. Okay, so we're going to leave this here for now, right? And we're going to take a look at Lorenzo's covenant to see what else he's got going on there. So this is his covenant, right? We take a quick look at the covenant. It looks okay, right? Pretty decent, nothing out of the ordinary, right? And these are the generals that he needs for his covenant. Gaius and Aurelian, okay, not bad. I think a lot of people have them. The issue that some people are going to have here is the fact that you need Niccolo for Lorenzo's covenant. Now, that's not entirely unexpected, but it does bring in a bit of a wrinkle when you want to use Lorenzo. Why? Because in his very final covenant, you have his march size in there. We already factored the march size into the comparison earlier, but if you don't have Nicolo, it will be very difficult for you to unlock that final covenant. So yeah, that's something that you need to keep in mind if you're planning on using Lorenzo. So that's it for his covenant. We want to take a look at his compatibility. First thing we'll look at is compatibility with skill books. So this is my Lorenzo here, and we come to the skill books. We check for ground attack. Okay, he's good for ground attack. We scroll down, look for ground defense. Here we go, ground defense. He's good for ground defense. Scroll down, look for ground HP. He's good for ground HP. And lastly, we check march size. He's good for march size. So Lorenzo can take all the ground skill books that we have in the game. All right, that's good that we've confirmed that. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at his compatibility with other generals. So we come on over here, okay? Right. So we have Lorenzo here, and the first general that we're going to check him out with is Gao. And as we can see, Lorenzo and Gao are good, okay? That's cool. Moving on, we check Lorenzo out with Narcissus, okay? This combination is a go. Interesting combination as well. Then we move on. We take a look at Lorenzo and Totila. Unfortunately, this combination does not work. Next, we have Lorenzo and Xiangfei, and this combination works, so that's cool. We look at Lorenzo with Alexander Hamilton. This combination is good. We also take a look at Lorenzo with Louis II. This combination also works pretty well. And finally, we have a look at Lorenzo with Lucila, and this combination is good. So, barring a few exceptions, Lorenzo has pretty good compatibility. If you know of any other generals Lorenzo is compatible with or not compatible with, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. Okay, so we've had a look at Lorenzo as the main general. Let's take a look at him as the assistant. So here we have the stats for all the prominent ground assistants, and we can see Lorenzo, stats-wise, he's doing pretty well. Okay, he's pretty good on the stats. Now, since we're looking at assistants, this will be a good time to bring in Nicolo. And as we can see there, Nicolo, stats-wise, he's pretty okay as an assistant. Overall, I think his stats are slightly less than that of Lorenzo's. But keep in mind that Nicolo is a when leading the army general, while Lorenzo is when leading the army to attack. So in practical situations, that is something to factor in there. In addition, we look at the march sizes of these generals. As an assistant, Nicolo gets 16% march size in total, while Lorenzo gets 11%. Now, we compare these to the other generals. That's actually not bad march size. There are only a handful of generals that would either beat them out or be equal to them on march size. So that part is cool. Right, now we've gone through all of that assessment, and I think the verdict on Lorenzo is that he's a very good general. A+, no question. We throw in Nicolo as well. For the assistant role, Nicolo is also A+. Okay, so this is a top-notch pair of ground generals that we have here. Now, the question that you guys have all been waiting for. Lorenzo and Nicolo versus Narcissus and Lucila. Which is better? Okay, I intentionally kept this to this point so that we could see how Lorenzo does against the other generals, and now we can focus on this comparison. So let's put Lorenzo and Narcissus side by side. These are the stats for Lorenzo once again, and these are the stats for Narcissus. Stats-wise, Lorenzo is certainly edging out Narcissus. He's looking better on, pretty much all fronts. We look at the march size. There's only 1% difference in march size. Still in Lorenzo's favor, but, you know, it's not quite the increase that people might have been expecting. Now, I'm not including the comparisons of base stats because that's not really clear. If anything, I think Narcissus kind of has the edge on base stats. But I think overall, Lorenzo is still edging him out. Now, we look at the assistants. Now, before we say anything about the stats, the important thing that we want to look at here is march size. And from what I can see, both Lucila and Nicolo in the assistant role have the exact same march size. So that's cool to know. Now, we look at the stats. If you take everything overall, yes, Nicolo has better stats than Lucila does. So that's that. When we take these combinations together, this is what their stats break down to. Now, as a combo, I think it is objectively clear that Lorenzo and Nicolo are better than Narcissus and Lucila. Okay, so these are now the new ground kings in Evony. But what I'm sure a lot of you might have noticed and were wondering is that, yes, they are better, but it's not the kind of increase that people were expecting. For some people, it might seem a bit underwhelming, but an increase is still an increase, okay? The only thing that changes that consideration a bit is that if you wanted to switch to Lorenzo and Nicolo, there's a considerable price tag that comes with it. So the question now is, are they worth switching to? Now, this is my opinion, okay? I'm sure a lot of people would not agree with it, but for me, I don't think that this increase is worth switching to. I just don't, okay? If you already have Narcissus and Lucila as your main ground combo, yeah, you will get an increase if you switch to Lorenzo and Nicolo, but considering how much you might have to pay for this, I wouldn't really recommend you do it. But that's just me. Like I said, objectively, Lorenzo and Nicolo are the best ground combination in the game. So if you wanted to go for them, that's perfectly fine. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And if you wanted to check out the other stuff that was released in this 9th year anniversary, you can check out this video here, which covers all the major updates. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.